I never used to notice mornings. Not really. I'd wake up, pour my coffee, watch the steam rise like ghosts from the cup, and drift into another workday like a boat with no oars. But today the cold bites different. There's a silence beneath the noise. It feels like something is waiting. The city is wrapped in winter's breath. Chicago's streets wear a thin layer of frost, and snowflakes flutter like tiny white lies. I step off the bus, and the cold punches through my coat, but I don't flinch. I welcome it. It keeps me from disappearing. My boots crunch softly as I cross the intersection at Wabash. The light blinks red, but I walk anyway. Horns don't scare me. Nothing does, really, not anymore. Not since Mom. Her name still tastes strange in my thoughts. Laura, my mother, gone. I haven't spoken since the funeral. Haven't answered calls. Haven't opened mail. I came to the city to forget, but now I realize I didn't bring anything worth remembering. Just this coat, and a photo I can't explain. I stop walking, right there in the middle of the crosswalk. The wind howls between the buildings, and I dig into my purse. There it is. The photo. A girl, maybe 15. Brown curls, navy school uniform. She's standing against a brick wall, smiling like she's keeping a secret. I don't recognize her face, but something in my stomach coils when I look at her. Like grief before it has a name. I woke up this morning with it clenched in my hand. No envelope. No note. Just the photo. I've never seen her before. So why does she feel like mine? I reach the other side of the street and lean against a lamppost. The metal is freezing, but I need the anchor. The world feels like it's turning without me. The girl in the photo haunts me, and the silence she brings is deafening. I duck into a cafe to escape the cold. It's quiet. A few strangers scatter across the space like forgotten punctuation marks. I order a tea I won't drink and find a corner seat by the window. I stare at the photo again. Her eyes are gentle, sad even. She reminds me of someone. Of me, maybe. Or of someone I could have been. Or was. But how? I press my forehead to the window. People pass outside, bundled in colorless coats, their faces blank. The girl is still in my hand, still staring at me, daring me to remember something I've clearly forgotten. I close my eyes, and in the darkness I hear a voice. A whisper. Mine. Find her. I don't know what it means, but I know that tomorrow I'll start looking, because something in me broke the moment I saw that photo. And I'm afraid the only way to fix it is to follow the truth, wherever it leads. It started with a name I didn't recognize scribbled in the corner of the photo. I hadn't noticed it before. Maybe because my hands were shaking the first time I found it. Maybe because I didn't want to look too closely, afraid of what I might find. But today, after hours of staring at that girl's face, after a dream where she whispered something I couldn't understand, I finally saw it. Faint ink, nearly rubbed away. S. Langley, 2005. That's all I had. A name and a year. But it felt like a doorway. A crack in the wall. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I went to the only place that had ever made me feel less alone. The place I went when I was a child and the world was too loud. The public library. Downtown. 3rd floor. Archive room. The librarian, a man in his 60s with hands like folded maps, didn't ask questions. He just pointed me toward the microfilm desk, nodded once, and returned to cataloging silence. I slid the photo from my coat and stared at it under the cold glow of the desk lamp. Langley. The name echoed like a bell in the back of my mind, too soft to place but impossible to ignore. I typed in the high school yearbooks from 2005, narrowing the search to city districts. There were 7 schools in range that year. I scanned every face, every class photo. It felt like peeling back wallpaper on a house I'd never entered, hoping to find my name scrawled on the bones. And then I saw her. Page 78. Lincoln East High School. Class of 2005. Samantha Langley. Sophomore. Same smile. Same eyes. The caption under her name read, Sam, Poetry Club, on a roll, missing since spring break. Missing. My heart skipped. I stared at the page like it might change. Like if I read it again, it would rewrite itself. But it didn't. Samantha Langley was gone. Had been for 20 years. And somehow, I was holding her picture. I copied the page and slid it into my bag, careful not to wrinkle it. It felt sacred now, like evidence of a life no one had finished telling. I left the library feeling hollow and electric all at once. The city was louder, the air colder. Every passerby looked like a question I couldn't answer. Who gave me that photo? Why didn't I remember her? Why did it feel like my story had been stitched to hers? I returned home and placed the photo and the copy of the yearbook page side by side on my kitchen table. I lit a candle. Not for her. Not yet. But for what might come next. Because this wasn't just a mystery. It was a message. And I was ready to start listening. The next morning, I packed the photo and the yearbook copy into my satchel like relics. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to go somewhere. I found Lincoln East High School on the edge of the city, its old brick walls sagging under the weight of 2 more decades. It had closed in 2009. A chain-link fence wrapped around the building now, like the city was trying to forget it had ever existed. I stood outside the gate for a long time. Cold breath. Frozen hands. My fingers twitched with memory I didn't have. Why did this place feel familiar? The wind rattled the gate. I watched it sway. For a moment, it looked like it was trying to open itself. Eventually, I climbed over. Not with grace, more like guilt and clumsy boots, but I didn't care. I needed to be on the other side. The halls were gutted. Locker doors hung off their hinges. The ceiling panels sagged like tired shoulders. A mural near the gym read, Class of 2006, we were here. I walked slowly, every step echoing through the bones of the building. In the corner of a former classroom, I found a broken desk, its surface carved with initials. SL. They were faint, but real. I ran my fingers over them. I sat down on the floor and took out the photo. What happened to you, Sam? I didn't expect an answer. But I felt one anyway. A sense of absence so loud it was almost physical. Like the walls remembered her. Like the space she left behind never fully filled in. I stayed there until my legs went numb and the sun shifted low. Before I left, I pulled out my notebook and scribbled everything I could remember. The dream, the whisper, the date, the school. My handwriting shook. It looked like someone else's memory spilling out through my hand. That night, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Ty, I said when he answered, his voice tired and cautious. I need your help. Because something about this was bigger than me. And I didn't want to go missing inside it. Ty arrived the next morning with 2 coffees and a look I couldn't name. Pity, maybe? Or worry dressed as silence. We hadn't spoken in nearly 5 years. Not since I left everything behind. Not since I chose quiet over chaos. He looked older, but not in the way time usually does. It was in the eyes. He'd seen things. Lost things. And now he was standing in my doorway again, because I asked. You sounded different, he said, handing me the coffee. Scared. I didn't deny it. I was. We sat in the kitchen, the photo between us like a third presence. Ty studied it for a long time, then looked up. I knew her brother. Those 4 words flipped something inside me. You what? Eli Langley. We played baseball together. Freshman year. He was quiet. Kept to himself. After Sam disappeared, he just stopped talking. Transferred schools. Some said he went to live with an aunt in Michigan. Others said he was institutionalized. No one really knew. I leaned forward, heartbeat louder now. Do you know where he is? Ty nodded slowly. There's a support home out near Brighton. I used to volunteer there a couple years ago. If he's still there, someone will know. By the time the coffee had gone cold, we were already in the car. The drive was long and gray. The kind of ride where memories climb into the back seat uninvited. We didn't talk much. But the silence wasn't heavy, it was mutual. Respectful. Like we were both waiting for something sacred. The support home sat on the edge of a frostbitten field. Small building. Worn siding. A bird feeder hung crooked by the window. Inside, the receptionist remembered Eli. He still doesn't talk, she said, eyes soft. But he draws. Every day. Would you like to see? She led us to a small room filled with sunlight and quiet. Eli sat by the window, sketching. He looked up when we entered. His eyes held something brittle and old. Recognition, maybe. Or just caution. I stepped closer and knelt beside him. I'm Sarah, I said, voice low. I think I'm connected to your sister. Samantha. His hand froze over the paper. I reached into my coat and pulled out the photo. Set it gently in front of him. Eli stared at it. And then, slowly, he reached for a colored pencil, dark red, and began to draw. Not on the paper he had started, but on a fresh one. He sketched a house. A door slightly ajar. A girl standing in the window. And beneath it all, in crooked letters, she was taken. Ty sucked in a breath. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because something just shifted. The mystery was no longer abstract. It had a witness. We drove back in silence. Not the awkward kind. The reverent kind. The kind you only share with someone who has seen what you've seen, even if they can't speak it. Eli's drawing burned in my mind. The girl in the window. The door left open. The message in red. She was taken. We didn't know what it meant, not yet. But I could feel it breathing beneath the surface of everything. This wasn't just a runaway story. It wasn't a tragic accident. It was a buried truth. Ty and I started looking into old property records, starting with addresses near Lincoln East High. We followed the sketch, the layout of the house in Eli's drawing, and narrowed it down to 3 abandoned properties. The third house sat on the edge of an industrial park. Fenced off. Condemned years ago. The city had planned to tear it down, but never did. I recognized it the moment I saw it. Not because I'd been there. Because I'd dreamed it. We broke in through a side door. Dust coated everything. Old furniture like frozen shadows. The smell of damp wood and something sour. Ty went upstairs. I stayed on the ground floor. Something pulled me toward the hallway, like gravity or memory. I pushed open a door to what might have been a study. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. But beneath it, writing. Words etched directly into the drywall. Scratched with something sharp. Repeating over and over. My name is Samantha Langley. I am here. I am here. I am here. I pressed my fingers against the wall. They trembled. She had been here. She had tried to leave a record. Ty called from upstairs. Sarah, come see this. In the attic, we found a locked trunk. Inside, newspaper clippings, Samantha's student ID, a broken watch, and dozens of photographs. Different girls. Different years. Always the same house. A pattern. A predator. The house had held more than silence. It had stored every secret no one wanted to believe. We called the police that night. Gave them everything. The drawings. The photos. The trunk. They opened a cold case the next morning. Samantha's name was finally spoken on record again. Her disappearance was no longer a rumor. Weeks later, I returned to the house alone. It was boarded up now. Scheduled for demolition. But I stood at the edge of the property, photo in hand, and whispered, I found you. Then I turned, walked back toward the street. Because her story had finally been told. And now it was time to tell mine. Ty nodded slowly. There's a